Hi everyone and welcome to episode 1 of Relegation Rescue at Renhe Beijing in the Chinese Super League. This is the team that are bottom of the table halfway through the season, so we have the second half of the season to see if we can avoid relegation and rescue them from it. So let's see how we get on. So, welcome to Renhe Beijing in the Chinese Super League. Before we get going, if you're brand new to the channel, then say hi and introduce yourself in the comments below. Whether you're new or not, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. Maybe even think about clicking a like button on this particular episode. A new series always needs the most amount of likes if we can, just to get momentum behind the series. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. But we have a real challenge on our hands here. The Chinese Super League is not somewhere that I've ever managed before. I don't know any of the clubs particularly. I'm going to butcher every single name that is in this particular series, be it club names or player names, etc. You'll have to forgive me for that. If anybody's got any help that they can offer me as we go through and they think I'm butchering anything in particular, then let me know in the comments below. But there are some really good positive parts about this particular club, but also some real big negatives as well. So let's start out by having a look at the league table itself. If we click into the league table, you can see that after 15 matches, we are halfway through the season. We do sit bottom of the table, but on 8 points, only 4 points behind safety at this particular moment. So there is a glimmer of hope there that we can turn this around, but it's going to be tricky for one specific reason that we'll get to in a moment. What I would say about Renhe Beijing is that in theory, the club is fairly sound. We've got 25 million in the bank as a balance, 10 million as a transfer budget. They've done quite a lot of transfer dealings already this season, but we'll check those out in a second also. The first thing here that I want to say though is we have to make note of the actual date that we're playing. This is the 14th of July 2022, and there's a couple of reasons why we are in 2022. The first being this is exactly the same game save as when I was doing a Portimonense relegation rescue earlier in the cycle of FM21, and the reason that we do that is that every time we do another one, we move it forward in the same game save, because that means we can't rely on knowing in the first season who all the free transfers are and who we can get in to potentially rescue us from these situations. We're always having to do something different. So that's the first reason. Second reason, we normally take over on Christmas Day, and this time round it's the middle of July, just because that's how the Chinese Super League calendar fits, as it were. It runs for a different set of months compared to the European leagues, and so we are in the middle of July, and that's why we're at where we are. So that's basically the setup that we've got. We're in the same Portimonense save. That has come and gone. If you haven't checked out that, go and check it out on my channel. It's still there from earlier in the Football Manager 21 cycle, as I say. But now we're dealing with Renhe Beijing in the Chinese Super League. Bottom of the table, we've seen that positives are that we've got a bit of finance to play with. There's some transfer dealings that we can make, which is really good. The negative so far that I've noticed more than anything is here. If we look at this section of players, let's just take them to the top. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 foreign players in this squad. I've had to reshape the squad already just by taking a couple of real deadwood out and putting them into the under-23s just to move them out so I can focus on what I've really got. But 6 foreigners is too many. We're only allowed 4 in the match day 11, and we're only allowed 5 in our squad in total. So at the moment, Clayton at the top of the picture is not registered to play and can't at the moment be registered. So we're going to have to reshape that. And this is where it gets really frustrating to me as coming into this particular side. As we go and have a look at the transfers, you'll see that they got themselves into this bit of a mess. So this is the transfer history for this particular season. They spent 6.75 million pre-season in building their squad, and all 6 of the foreign players in my squad currently were bought in the same transfer window, when the club know that you're only allowed to use 4 in the first 11 and 5 in your squad in total. What on earth were they thinking about? It's completely messed up what I can do at this point, and I've got to reset some of these to be able to get a first 11 out that is actually going to be decent enough to help us. Now, I've already put some transfer bids in because I've had a look around this. I haven't moved the game forward at all. We're on the date that I took over, but I have looked around the club a little bit and just had a tinker with the tactic that we'll have a look in a second, and what I want to do in terms of personnel. We'll have to wait till next episode to find out whether I get any of those in or not. But all 6 of these foreign players are pretty much bought in this window, and there are some really good ones in here. The likes of Jason Malumbi came in from Brighton and Hove Albion in the transfer window, and he's basically the star of our show in central midfield. He is miles better than everybody else that we've got. But overall, I'm reasonably happy with some of the players. But for example, Alex Song, who you'll recognise, not the milestones, we want the career stats, you'll recognise from having been at Arsenal and Barcelona and West Ham. He's now in the club at the age of 34 and isn't very good anymore. The physicals are really dreadful, mentals are fantastic, occasional good stuff in the technicals, but not really. And he's just not very good. But if you think he's not very good, there's some even worse players in this squad. It's not a brilliant squad. It's really not. There's some gems in there, about 3 or 4 really decent enough players. The rest of it needs to be improved if possible. But yeah, the club have kind of done themselves in, and we've got to sort it all out for them. So, welcome to the recent results, or as I like to call it, a sea of red. For goodness sake, if we look at all the friendlies at the beginning of the season, they were all losses, not very good start, but then the competitive matches kicked in and it didn't get any better at all. We've had 1 league against Shenzhou in the Super League, and that was a decent 4-0 win. What happened there? I have no idea compared to the rest of these performances. We also had another one here against Renhe, and we beat them 2-1 fairly recently. The last 2 games have been pretty decent before I took over, so hopefully there's a little bit of momentum that we can carry forward there. But the rest of it is fairly dreadful, isn't it, really? And that is why we are ultimately where we are, sitting right at the bottom of the table. Too many losses, a couple of draws in there, a couple of wins, and it's nowhere near good enough. If we go and have a look in at the squad in a little bit more detail, we're not going to spend too long today looking through this. This is just an introductory episode, really. But there's 2 things that I want to really bring your attention to as we look at this squad and what we need to improve. And one is that we've only got 2 recognised central defenders, and one of them is unregisterable, if that's a word. And the other 3rd one here is more so playing at right back for us at the moment, or that's where I'd have liked him to have played. He'll have to play centrally, but ultimately he could really be a good right back cover because our squad is not balanced and we only have 1 other right back in the club. We've got a couple of left backs, which is all right. Lots of central midfield players, which will impact our choice of tactic. But the thing that the second thing that I want you to have a look at in other than our imbalanced defensive area is we've got a very, very low rating a lot around our defence, and we've got 1 recognisable striker in the club, and he ain't very good either. A finishing of 11, composure of 7. At the age of 20, he's got no natural fitness, no pace whatsoever. And this is the guy that we're asking to get the goals for us. So those areas have to change. We have to balance the squad better to be able to fulfill the tactical formation that I want to play. And we have to find somebody somewhere to score us the goals. Please, the FM gods, shine kindly on us and let's find some better players. The midfield area is decent, defence needs restructuring, and we need to find some strikers. So because of an imbalance down the left-hand side compared to the right in terms of our wingers, we've got a couple of decent wide players in the right-hand side. For example, Pereira can cut in off that wide right-hand side, or he can go down the line a little bit. There's some worth in him. And the other one that we've got for backup to him is this guy here. Oh, no, click on it, Kev, if you can. There we go. Yufeng, and he can play down that right-hand side as well, and has got a decent amount of crossing and a little bit of pace, but it's overall a decent option down that right-hand side for the Chinese Super League. So there's a couple of wide right-hand side players. We didn't really have anybody for the left-hand side, really. But what we do have is a couple of reasonably good attacking midfield players. For example, this guy, Yongjing, he can play in that attacking midfield role or wide left, but I'm going to play him down the middle. And he's got a good amount of long shots on him. Vision isn't brilliant, but team rate and work rate, pretty good. So I think he's going to do pretty well for us in that kind of attacking midfield role. We're just going to off-centre him slightly into that left-hand side. And we're also going to play the Metzala. Duna is our Metzala option in the centre of midfield. And what that's going to mean is he's going to drift out into these wide areas occasionally. And with the overlapping fullback on the left-hand side, the right-hand side will stay where he is, the fullback. The left-hand side will attack a little bit more. Hopefully those two players, Duna and Philippe, will get a little bit of width down that left-hand side for us as we keep Yongjing in that central area a little bit more. So that's the way we're going to play. It's a bit of a weird tactic, but it's what we've got in terms of players, and we'll hopefully supplement that by bringing in some new blood to fill the roles that we've already talked about. We're going to be using the counter-attack, the fluid counter-attack, going to soak up a little bit of pressure and try and counter-attack specifically down that right-hand side at a point. I haven't set up all the instructions just yet. I'm still working on that. We're in a cautious mentality just at the moment to soak up and then potentially break on, and we'll see how that works. But ultimately, what we've got to do is we've got to make ourselves harder to beat, much harder to beat if we can, and then find a route through this team to get to a slightly better striking option, and potentially that'll get us goals. It's going to be challenging, but this is the way we're going to try and do it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So the way that it works for my relegation rescues for the half season that we take charge for is that we basically play every other game on an episode. So there's about 7 or 8 episodes through the rest of this season to get through. We're going to come and play DL Pro in the first of our games, and they're currently sitting in 6th in the Chinese Super League. So next episode, they're going to be our opponents. And then after that, every other game we're going to play through to the end of the season and see if we can rescue Renhe Beijing from relegation. So I hope you're going to join me for the ride. It's a bit of an introductory episode today. No match for us to play because, to be honest, I haven't quite figured out how to put an 11 on the pitch that's going to be any good just yet. But I will do that for next episode, and we'll have hopefully a couple of new players coming in soon enough when we can get them in and try and rescue this particular setup from relegation. So thank you for joining me for the introductory episode. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Come back next Monday and we'll get going properly and see if we can help Renhe Beijing out. Until then though, thank you for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join my United City community. The more the merrier. Click that like button on this particular episode if you could. That will really help me out. Until next time though, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.